Welcome to this evening's meeting of the Middletown Council Planning Committee on Tuesday, the 18th of February. Welcome to all our visitors watching on the YouTube channel. This meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Middletown Council YouTube page. The aim is that decision-making should be transparent and in the public domain, which will involve more of our community in local democracy. By being in this council chamber, you are consenting to be being recorded and for your image to be added to YouTube. The images and sound may be used for training purposes. Any views expressed are the speaker's own and do not necessarily reflect the view of Middletown Council. Please view the guidance on recording and public meeting policy if you need more information. Thank you. Right. Moving on to the agenda. Item 69, apologies. Do we have any apologies?
Yes, Councillor Fox.
Okay, thank you. But no one else. Right, moving on. Declarations of interest. Do we have any disclosable pecuniary interests or dispensations?
That's on the application about the Knightsbridge Sports Hall. I'm a member of the club. I don't have a pecuniary interest.
Okay. Do you have any pecuniary interest as such? Any other interests around the room? I'm going to declare an interest by, well, not so much an interest, as a potential conflict of interest with the application from Neighbourhood Sports Club for the Busy Bees nursery. The grounds being that I am currently engaged with Moor First School as Chair of Governors, investigating the provision of nursery places at the school, which might be deemed to be a competitor, and therefore for that element, I will provide the summary of the planning application. I will not be making any recommendations. I'll be passing over to Councillor Hopkins at that point for any discussion, and I shall leave the room.
I'm sorry, Chair, I'm not a decision maker obviously on this committee, but I'm also a member of Knightsbridge Club by virtue of the fact that my children do sport.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Right, so moving on to approve the minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 21st of January 2025. These have been through the Town Council and received and approved there. Can I have, thank you, Councillor Proudlove. Do we need to go through them all, or are we happy just to take them as having already been seen? Can I have a show of hands, please, for approving? Thank you. That is unanimous. Just give me a moment while I sign them off. Thank you very much. Moving on to receive the notes of the Neighbourhood Plan Implementation Working Group meeting on the 5th of February 2025.
I'll move those, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Hawley. A second for those about the meeting. Okay. Councillor Rogers. Right. So, do we need to go through these? Oh, that's an interesting question. He's present at the meeting, he can't vote at the meeting, but he was at the previous meeting and therefore can second the third accurate. Right, okay. Right. Okay, so quickly running through those: present, welcome introductions, declarations of interest, apologies. Confirm the notes for the meeting on the 25th of September. To consider the planning application referred from the Planning Committee. 6, to receive an update on activities since the last meeting. 7, to consider action plan update. And 8, date of next meeting. We're all happy with that? Can I show of hands, please? For are we receiving those? Or we're receiving those. Okay. We all show it, yes. Right. That is unanimous as well. Right. Now they would be signed by Dave the next meeting. Yeah. Okay. Right. Moving on to item 72, standing agenda item, to consider any proposed sites for local listing. Do we have any sites for local listing? Anyone from around the room? Suggestions? Right. No. Okay. Right. Moving on then to 73, to new planning applications. We'll deal first with the Neighbourhood Sports Club application for Be Active Childcare. The proposed is SMD 2025-0007. Proposed replacement building for forming a children's nursery. There was no pre-application advice. Proposal is to essentially remove or demolish the existing redundant and disused changing room building, replacing it with a similar sized building to house nursery childcare facility set in a garden area with boundary fences. The walls will be, our existing concrete walls we propose there with blockwork with render, although the plans do specify UPVC cladding rather than render. The existing roof is metal, the proposed roof will be green metal cladding. Windows, nothing is specified on the existing materials, but proposed they will have black UPVC, which are shown on the plan. Similarly, the door has no existing materials specified, but again, the proposed are UPVC. This is in the green belt. It's a previously developed site. The replacement building is the same size as the existing building, essentially on the same footprint. It may have a positive impact on the openness of the site, and the NPPF promotes community facilities. It could be seen as sustainable development because it has ready access to public transport and there is already existing car park adequate for the increased capacity. The supporting statements, essentially there's mining risk assessment, which says that there's no shallow workings and it's a low risk of unrecorded workings and a low risk of mine gas. The Coal Authority have no objections. The site contains development high risk area, but it's not, but the building itself is actually outside the high risk area. Therefore, they have no objection. The ecological report indicates that there's negligible bat roosting and low bird nesting potential, and there's no actually birds nesting at the moment. And the arboreal impact assessment states that there is a TPO on the site and mitigation measures are required. As far as I can see, it impacts on CF2 existing community facilities, as it's the development of an existing community facility, which should be encouraged by the neighbourhood plan as well as the local plan. It's the design appears to be, no, we'll move through the INF2. There's no indication of the drainage system. There's a presumption to use existing provision, but I think clarification may be needed on that. For design, DES 1, the design materials are appropriate to the location and use. There's 2, car parking, public realm car parking and movement. The existing car parking is sufficient to accommodate the extra use. Highways have requested the allocated spaces marked on the plan should be available before the development is brought into use. There has been some public comment suggesting that we should sustainable drainage should be applied and that energy generation might be considered, renewable energy generation might be considered. And they've also raised the question about the unsustainable version of the plastic cladding. I'm not making any recommendations. I'm not recommending any conditions. I'm suggesting that there may be some you might want to think about when I've left the room. Principally to implement the recommendations of the ecology survey, including their optional enhancements, and the mitigation measures from the arboreal impact assessment, and also the County Council Highways recommendation. Also, as this is a childcare facility, it should comply with the Staffordshire County Council childcare facilities requirements. For example, numbers of toilets per change facilities per child ratio figures, and potentially to request clarification, sustainable drainage, and highlighting needs to ensure this if it's addressed. So at this point, I will hand over to Councillor Hopkins. Leave the room while you debate this. Give me a call when you come back. You made a recommendation.
Okay. They're not demolishing the old clubhouse, are they?
No, it's changing.
That's highlighted there.
Proper building, a big what's-it building, this is just a single story changing.
Right. Anybody want to make any comments? Okay.
To be honest, the chair, I've got a bit of a problem with this proposal. Not a proposal, not a problem with the nursery. I'm sure the business provided a really good service. But once again, we're seeing the watering down of grassroots football facilities in. The changing rooms have not been used for a number of years, but I would suggest that's to do with the management of the site and the facilities rather than lack of demand for them. They've been allowed to deteriorate and get in a pretty poor condition. The changing rooms were provided and refurbished using grant funding from the Coalfields Regeneration Trust many moons ago. You know, I think there are a number of people in the room can attest to the demand for grassroots football facilities in Biddulph. You know, we're seeing a facility here that's been allowed to erode to a point whereby we're being told that this building has to go and be replaced by an alternative use. The design of the building, I would argue, isn't right for the setting. The cricket ground is noted in a number of sort of local planning documents in terms of its openness and its character. And the use of materials proposed, I'd suggest inappropriate in that particular setting. I do have some obviously sympathy for the nursery operation, because clearly it's a successful business and it's growing. But you know, my concern is the impact on grassroots sports facilities in the town.
Okay. And did you want to say something?
Yeah, I echo what Councillor Proudlove said. I mean, that is a long-standing sports ground, and the primary use of the whole footprint of that area is sports provision. And, you know, the amount of football clubs, the amount of cricket clubs, associated tennis and bowling, these things ebb and flow over time. But to effectively once you remove a facility, the facility's gone forever, so to speak. And, you know, there is a lot of pressure to keep sports facilities and enhance sports facilities. What I'd be very interested in looking at, and I think it's something which should be explored as part of this, is what is the alternative provision for the maintenance of that level of servicing for the sports facilities. Because granted, at this moment in time, it doesn't look like it's being used, but is there an alternative? I mean, you're a member, so obviously you must know in some respects, is there an alternative provision? Is the scope for that alternative provision to cope perhaps an increase in the footfall of sports clubs? Because that's something which, as a district council, and I would suggest as any council, you know, the enhancement of sporting facilities is something which is always on the mind with the
Yeah, I'm not party to any
No.
any conversations about replacing the facilities. The only thing I do know is that the facilities have been deemed unsuitable while the Councillor Salt.
Yeah, the facilities are used, so the kitchen, which forms part of that block, is used every Sunday. And it serves tea and coffee for the sports teams and bacon bats and all that sort of stuff, so that facility is used. Is it just, okay, I don't want to see it go. I don't know if it can go. Do we need a change of use? Or, I don't.
We've got a neighbourhood plan policy, CF2, about existing community facilities, which says development proposals that enhance existing community facilities in the neighbourhood area will be supported. Developments that involve the loss of existing community facilities will only be supported where replacement facilities of the same or better quality are provided. An exception to this is if similar quality or better facilities provided nearby. So,
Through the chair, I honestly don't think it should go. I think thanks for bringing that to my attention, Sarah. And also, I do think it's got to be a change of use, surely. It can't just be a kind of, we're applying to build a nursery. It's changing from one thing to another, so surely there's got to be permission for change of use.
Yeah, well, that's all within.
Is it all within? But yeah, I wouldn't support it. I think it needs to be retained and enhanced.
Councillor Jones.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think just on the theme of what's been said, I presume it says in obviously sports club, so presumably the sports club are doing the demolition and the rebuild, and then they're going to rent it out to the nursery. It isn't the nursery that paying for this. So I would have hoped, and I would suggest maybe, why can't it be some sort of dual use? So there's, you know, there's a male and a female toilet and there's two areas where people can get changed. I would prefer to see that than for the changing rooms to just go. As I think Councillor Proudlove said, you know, once they're gone, and it's very difficult to get them sort of things back. You know, I don't want to stop anybody developing a business, but I would have thought it wouldn't take a lot of lines on that drawing to make it into a building that could be used for both. Chair.
Like I say, I don't know. I don't know, not party to any conversations have been had about that building.
No, but as I say, Chair, there's nothing on it. I think with changing rooms, you have to have two separate changing areas and a separate toilet, the changing area for the referee or something. There are rules. I can't remember what they are, but they are quite detailed. But I wouldn't have thought it, you know, within that footprint, you could arrange the partitioning walls so that it could be used for both. Because, you know, let's face it, the nursery's probably going to run Monday to Friday, maybe Sunday morning, and the matches are usually going to be weekends or evenings. So there should be a conflict there.
And just ask the question, I mean, currently, is there any sort of league football being played at Knightsley? Because if there is, then there must be changing facilities already made available. So, you know, this is the sort of thing that it's mandatory that if you're playing league football, you've got to have changing facilities. So one would think that there must be changing somewhere if they're not using this building. So that's the question I would ask. I mean, I'm quite happy. I mean, what's been said, we're losing a sports facility there. And that does concern me. But if there is a replacement and they are actually using and changing somewhere else, then fine. You know, it's sort of.
Yeah, just to come in there.
Thank you, Chair. Just on a couple of points. It's children's football is played there, so there won't be any requirement to provide a changing facility. The reason the changing facilities were there in the first place was because obviously Knightsley Victoria, Biddulph Victoria, as it became, were a senior club, and yeah, there was a requirement for changing facilities, senior adult football. Just on Councillor Jones's point, there is space there. So where the building is currently, and obviously it's proposed to construct that on the existing footprint. There is space to the front of that. I used to be on the committee at this, I don't know the facility well. The problem is we can't say to an applicant, we think you should make your project bigger to, you know, we can only deal what's in front of us, unfortunately. But I do agree with your point. There is scope there, you know, to create a facility there that could offer, you know, those things.
Yeah, did you want to come in?
Yes, I think just looking at the design, picking up on Councillor Jones's point, the design does look like a changing rooms for a football club. The only thing is that with the best will in the world, muddy boots and you know, hot rubs and things going in there. I mean, Monday morning wouldn't actually be the ideal time to drop your kids off.
It's not. It's a bloody nursery.
I know it's a nursery, but what I'm saying is two separate rooms, there's two separate toilets. Yeah, I don't think a dual use would be the thing.
Okay.
My concern and issue is about the thought process, which stops an irreversible reduction in the potential for facilities and potential what that ground, those facilities, which have been there going back, must be a century plus by now. So, you know, once gone, it's gone. I'm just wondering, is this being a delegated decision or is it going to the planning committee? Because I would say that this, as much as we don't like to call things in for the sake of it, I think this needs to be called in. And I'm looking at the ward councillors over there, because it'd be your job to do that.
Councillor Jones, did you ask?
By district, it has to be.
No, it's all right, Chair. Well,
And then the applicant can be questioned about potential future uses, potential issues, and we would have the time as a town council to actually put a document together raising our concerns, and then actually put those concerns to the planning committee.
The point is
clarification here, would it not be councillor Church's?
We acknowledge that, yeah, district council, so we can arrange that, but that would be my thing, is to call it in, so we can have a proper discussion with the applicants, just to see what potential future proofing, reversal, whatever. Nobody's got a crystal ball.
Councillor Proudlove?
I mean, to be quite frank, what this is all about, and this has been an ongoing process since 2009. The people that ran the sports ground back then didn't want a semi-professional football club playing, and so they got rid of it. So over time, they've eroded the facility to a position where obviously children are playing there now. Now, I'm not saying that facility shouldn't be used by children, but a town the size of Biddulph should have a senior football club. And that's the place where Biddulph Senior Football Club played its football. It no longer, we don't have a facility where a senior football club could play. And this is just the end game, really, isn't it? Unless they develop the facility further, which I'm not convinced they've got the appetite to do that.
Yeah. Councillor Jackson, then Councillor Thornton, then we'll.
I think it's a planning issue as such. I wasn't 100% certain. So just check for me. I was under the impression that Busy Bees is a very big outfit. It's not just a local Biddulph business. It's right across the country. It's a big business, a very big business. So yeah, I'm thinking with that in mind, with it being a bigger entity, some of the things that have been suggested about sort of helping to do both, perhaps because it's a big outfit and has probably got the money to do it, could be perhaps persuaded to look at some of the things that we've suggested. But that's not a planning. That's not a planning thing.
It's a regeneration.
I think, yeah. Well, but I do think on the planning side, losing the potential for sporting facilities is perhaps enough to have it called in and discussed.
Councillor Salt and then Councillor Hawley.
Yeah, just to say there is an appetite for senior football. So currently my son's 15 coming up to 16. So next year he'll be in his last year of like children's football. And there's I think there's 3 clubs of his age group in Biddulph that as soon as that senior football finishes, well, junior football finishes next year, there's no club, there's no progress. And from the Biddulph football group that I was involved in, the appetite there between the now 2 Biddulph clubs was to create a senior football club for that, so there's progression routes for those children, and the only suitable place for that is sports and social club. There isn't anywhere else in Biddulph.
Councillor Hawley.
Yeah, I was just sort of wondering, I mean, but potentially when you get things like sports facilities being got rid of, effectively Sport England usually get involved and start sort of make it, you know, they will make objection to it on the basis that you can't get rid of sports facilities. So it would be interesting to know if they've actually seen the plans and whether or not they would get involved, because obviously if they do, they actually pull quite a bit of weight when they do get involved.
Proudlove.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, Chair, there is some land owned, so you know where the cricket scoreboard is.
Yeah.
There's some land that's owned behind there but there was a proposal a number of years ago to actually develop a brand new senior football facility on that land, and let the, you know, I'm guessing that the existing pitch would be used for car parking, cricket matches like it, you know, normally is. And the application to, I'm told this is 20 years ago maybe, was rejected on the basis that facilities in the Greenbelt. But if you look at Greenbelt policy, sports facilities, sports and the ancillary facilities that go with it, permissible development on the Greenbelt. I mean, maybe that's something that the sports club ought to revive and explore, given the, you know, the issues that Councillor Salt's just.
Okay, so there seems to be a consensus is pretty much that this isn't a suitable development, that we're losing an important facility. So can we have somebody want to propose that in a second, please? So, you know,
Chair, just for clarity, I don't think any of us are opposing the nursery. What we're opposing is the what's the
It's the re-
changing room. So no, I don't think anybody wants to stop the nursery developing. But we
I
don't
didn't
want to lose.
read it that badly.
So I think that's, to make that perfectly clear on that.
What we're objecting to is this planning application, not.
As it stands, yeah.
Yes. It needs further work, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you want to show?
Yeah, can we have a show of hands for that, please?
What is the actual proposal?
Proposal is that
Opposed to the loss of the community facility, which is CF2 in the neighbourhood plan, but are positive about development of the nation.
so full agreement. Against?
Perhaps on this committee.
I'm not,
So,
right, no, I'm
but
not.
I was intrigued what you've got to say about it, really.
Okay. That it?
With provision of neighbourhood plans. So. Oh, we'd be all right.
That's all right. And you've gone, yeah. Of course.
I've just messaged
Hopkins, thank you.
Drew to call it in on those grounds.
Okay, so moving on. Planning application SMD 2025-0010. Mr. Paul Brown of 18 Crossways, Biddle. It's a proposed single-story living room rear extension and the demolition of an existing rear utility room with some internal modification. And we have a look at the plan.
No.
Hang on, just-
That's a website.
Right, okay, so we can't do anything about it. Right, so, okay, so this is, looking at the right one, I'm looking at the wrong one there. Okay, so, this is the plan to replace an existing flat roof rear extension with a larger pitched roof extension to match with materials to match the original building. The new pitch will be below the level of the existing roof line extending out from the property. There are no windows to the side and bifold doors to the rear. There is a new window to the side of the existing bedroom. It will look onto the drive, onto the boundary to the neighbouring property. It's a relatively small window. It's 1800 millimeters wide by 600 millimeters high, set just below the E. That's repurposing what was the lounge into a third bedroom with ensuite. Repurposing the original lounge at the front of the house into a third bedroom with an ensuite. Okay, so walls, existing walls are mixed brown facing brick with blue tile hanging and white render. The proposed wall will be mixed brown facing brick to match the existing. The roof, existing plain blue roof tiles and a flat felt roof on the existing extension. The proposal is that it would plain blue roofing tiles to match the existing on the new pitched roof. Existing windows UPVC proposed are the same white UPVC, brown doors. Existing the brown wood door and a white UPVC door. The proposal is white UPVC door with large bifold door at the back. There were no additional design access statements, no additional supporting statements. No pre-application was taken. It's not in the green belt. BNG does not apply because it's a household application. There are no specific neighbourhood plan policies that directly are directly impacted by this planning application. Possibly a query on DES1, the design, because while the new extension actually is an improvement, being a pitched roof rather than a flat roof, and the design does fit in with the rest of the house. I do have concerns regarding the new boundary neighbour facing window on the bedroom. My recommendation would be no adverse comment because it doesn't actually directly impact any of our neighbourhood plan policies. But to highlight to the planning officers our concern about the window that faces directly across to the neighbour. Councillor Hawley.
Yeah, having lived on this estate for many years, basically most of the bungalows have got windows looking over their drive into next door, and usually there are windows along the side of next door as well. So what he's doing is actually no different than what is already on that estate anyway. Plus the fact that the window itself is quite high up, just under the eaves, so it's not a full-blown open window. And he does say in there that he is actually going to notify the neighbour about it. So I don't even think that we need to actually raise any concerns and just put it through as no adverse comments.
Happy to have that, yes, absolutely no problem.
So that, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a show of hands? Everyone in favour of that? Any objections? Any abstentions? Right, okay, thank you. So no adverse comments? Yeah, the next one was honourable supplementary, but it should have been included with the pack that you all got. This is SMD 2025. Are we okay if I take these supplementaries now rather than wait until the end? Are we okay with that? Yeah, sorry, yes. Sorry, I missed that. We're moving on. Right, okay, so this is SMD 2025-0040. Mr. and Mrs. Fletcher, I'm assuming not related. 1 Grange Court, Biddulph. It's a proposed garage conversion extension with alterations. Right. Okay, so can we see? I could turn my screen. I could turn my screen round, but that would be a bit too far away for everyone to.
Thanks.
Have I got? Yeah, I've got HDMI, but it's all the way around this side.
Just rearrange the book.
Right, okay. Because it wasn't plugged in far enough. If we're lucky.
Oh.
Oh. Isn't it lovely? Hang on.
Yeah, one of them.
Oh, gosh, now.
Yes, go way over this.
Right. There we go. We can all see now, yes? Wonderful. So, right. It's basically it's an extension to an existing double garage, which is most of the footprint of what's on there, but extending it sideways, linking the garage to the main property, converting it into a home office habitable room. The existing roof is a bitumen felt to the flat roof, and the proposal is to have a black EPDM rubber flat roof. Walls, existing facing brick to walls, dark timber cladding to the dormers. Proposal is to have facing brick to walls to match, and replacement oak effect composite cladding. Right, again, no pre-application advice. It's not in the green belt. No BNG because it's a householder application. Potential impact with the neighbourhood plan policies are DES 1 and DES 2. DES 1 concerned potentially because it's a large flat roofed habitable building, not particularly good design, but not out of character, bearing in mind other similar properties. DES 2, public realm car parking. Because of the loss of the garage, we're losing 2 car parking spaces in the garage, but the plan indicates that there is sufficient parking essentially here, and then 2 more in front of the house to the drive here to cover the potential habitation of the property. Again, my recommendation would be no adverse comments because the impact on the neighbourhood plan policies is negligible. and not to bother referring it to the neighbourhood plan working group again, because the impact on neighbourhood plan policies are minimal. Do I have everyone happy with that to no adverse comments?
Yeah.
Show of hands, please.
Comment as long as no neighbourhood concerns, that's all. Neighbours concerned.
Happy to add, if there's no valid neighbours planning concerns.
City council got.
It doesn't even look, it's not even going to impact any neighbours because the extension comes that
Yeah.
way.
It comes behind, yes, it comes, okay, right. It's essentially, the current garage wall comes down here. And they're extending it by this small section here to go behind the house with a bridging to the property. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything to be concerned about at all. So neither positive nor negative from our point of view, therefore no adverse comments. Okay, right, lovely. Thank you very much. I can give you your wire back. Let me close that down. Pull my plug out. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the planning application before us today. Moving on to item 75. New decisions and notices received from the district. 5005, we had no adverse comments. That planning permission has been approved. 24516. Recommended approval with conditions for implementation of all recommendations from the wildlife survey. Plan permission has been approved. I don't know if those conditions were put. Do we have any indication whether our recommended conditions were put onto the approval?
Approval usually comes in.
I would expect so. Okay. 2405514. We recommended approval and plan commission was approved. And we have no appeals. So I would therefore like to declare the meeting concluded at 8 minutes past